Because of how this whole decade has basically been, it feels as though we've all been under the curse of an Aztec Death Whistle. So much so that there's now a horror movie about it. Should you go watch? I really want to channel Roy Kent anytime I say the word whistle. Whistle! Whistle! A group of unwitting high school students stumble upon an Aztec death whistle, summoning their deaths. As the body count rises, the friends investigate the origins of the deadly artifact in a desperate effort to stop the horrifying chain of events that they have set in motion. The stars Daphne Keane and Sophie Nélisse, along with others like Percy Hines-White, Ali Scovey, Sky Yang, Jaleel Swabi, Michelle Fairley, and Nick Frost. Now, the concept for this, it's a little intriguing. This mysterious, smoking, pipe-looking thing filled with Aztec glyphs and carvings appears in a student's locker. Just don't question the logic. I mean, you're going to have plenty of time to do that throughout the film. After a bit, though, they decide to give it a blow. Not that kind. And then they unleash a terror that somehow becomes unique to each of them, which is going to end in their demise. Now, the gore and violence in this, they are outstandingly fun. Because each of the deaths we watch is catered to an individual, they're all unique and creatively shown. The CGI isn't always flawless, and sometimes it's even terrible, but the effect is still the same, creating some gross-out, squirmy moments that end with a spectacular death. Honestly, this was the best thing about the movie. Some of the writing is so basic and bland that it seems as though it's actively working to make the audience dumber. Character may say something to the group of friends who were present when the whistle was blown, and then another character is going to parrot the same remarks immediately after, which they already all know. Huh? And it's incredibly lazy to the point that it became annoying. For some reason, the direction, it also didn't evoke many emotional or impactful performances. Daphne Keane comes across as robotic, and she's meant to be an edgy outsider with a marred past, but for so much of this, she keeps the audience at arm's length that it's difficult to feel for her when it actually matters. And Sophie Nélisse showcases more emotional range, but she suffers from what the writing does to all of the players. It keeps them shallowly developed and then rushed through any connection. And for storytelling that opts to fast-track any meaningful world building, there's a large chunk of the film that feels long. This is only 97 minutes, but I was struggling not to check my watch during several segments. So we've got this odd mixture of a too-quick approach that's dragging. Now, probably the largest shortcoming, or maybe it's the most unoriginal part of the film, is that it steals from a horror franchise that's already dealt with the topic of unstoppable death chasing characters. The unoriginality, it's unfortunate because the potential from the whistle lore, it could be freaky, intriguing, even complex. None of that is accomplished. Instead of creating a tangible mythos around the whistle, we're given a brief bit of exposition that spells out things way too conveniently and obviously, removing dread and then setting up the scenario that copies and pastes from the Final Destination series. Now, as a Gen Xer, I grew up with absentee parenting. I was free to roam the streets untethered all day long. But for a story that takes place in present day, outside of one set of parents, there are very few adults shown within this world. I mean, probably the most glaring omission is that of Keene's family. She's moved in with her cousin's family, and there is zero sign of life from anybody else ever at their home outside of Keene and her cousin. Now, it doesn't make or break the story, but it did stand out because with the other teens the narrative follows, we don't see any inkling of adults in their lives either. Now, the plot employs a compressed timeline, which does help to create a little bit of stress and tension, even if it is artificially manufactured. And this is also where you'd imagine the story would be faster paced. But even with a shorter time span, this lingers on interactions and then elements that pump the brakes rather than speed us on towards something harrowing or exciting. And once the brief lore of the whistle is delivered, the rest of the film becomes a predictable paint-by-the-numbers tale that's only kept engaging thanks to some inventive explorations of the characters. Now, something I was expecting from this film, which it actually didn't overuse, were jump scares. I figured from the dude who directed the abhorrent supposed horror The Nun, this would be filled at every opportunity with musical stings and the ever-obvious figures leaping out from the corners. Now, this wasn't devoid of those lazy tactics, but they were minimized by way more than I had anticipated. Overall, this isn't a terrible film. It's not that good either, though. The writing is cringy and basic, with skimpy development, even less world building. The lore and mythos of the whistle isn't exploited to the degree that it makes it threatening or ominous, and the dialogue is borderline insulting to the mind. Rushed story progressions, curiously combined with a dragging pace, make this clunky, adding to the dullness of stoic and robotic characterizations that lack connection, which is also a result of blatantly stealing story premises from other well-known films. The one standout element within this movie is the gory violence that's imaginative and fresh, capturing some gnarly kills that are going to make you writhe in glorious discomfort. There's no sex or nudity, ton of profanity, and a bunch of violence. I give Whistle 2.5 out of 5 couches. Okay, I'm in the mood for something extremely creepy or frightening. Do you have any suggestions? I would love to get your recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.